JayEmm on Cars is sponsored by Car Vertical. With just a registration number, or even better, a VIN, Car Vertical will search over 20 European databases to find out whether any car you're looking at has a hidden past. They can see if a vehicle was used as a taxi, stolen, suffered fire damage, or involved in a crash, even when it wasn't written off, so could pass other checks. Car Vertical is now an essential tool in my car buying kit, putting all the information I need to know together in one easy-to-read report. Even better, if you follow the link in the description down below, you'll get 10% off. A big thank you to them for being today's sponsor.
Hello everybody and welcome to today's review, which is of this, the Kia Rio GT-Line S with a 1 litre 3-cylinder engine. Now you may be thinking that the sort of YouTuber who can on occasion summon up a Ferrari, a Bentley, a Lamborghini or a Porsche wouldn't really want anything to do with cars like this, the humdrum, the ordinary, but nothing could be further from the truth. I in fact explicitly requested this car from Kia, and it's something I've been wanting to feature for quite some time. So why is that? First off, I always really enjoy having Kia press cars, not just because the press office is so lovely and nice to deal with, award-winning, I should point out, but because they are genuinely really nice to drive and live with. They always seem to be very well specified for the money, and I still think Kia is a brand that hasn't quite yet got the recognition it really deserves amongst the sort of driving community here in Great Britain. We're still very happy to spend inordinate amounts of money on a VW, but when it comes to this, even though they're often better driving, better equipped cars, people still aren't so keen to part with their cash. I also think that it's very, very important to keep myself grounded, and although it's lovely to be able to spend a lot of time with these nice, high-end, high-power cars, and indeed, as things have gotten better for me, I've been able to afford some of them of my own, I think it's really very vital to keep driving stuff like this to work out not just what you can get for your money, but also see where the market is going and what's on offer for the majority of people, because let's be honest here, and this is the main point, as fun as a Porsche, Ferrari, Maserati, Bentley or whatever it may be, these are actually much more important cars. Not so many people will ever have the opportunity to own a Ferrari, and that's absolutely fine, because if everyone did, they wouldn't really be that special. But even for those of us who do, cars like this are still, in reality, a lot more important, because this is the thing you're probably going to be putting miles on. And for those older types who've got their supercar or their nice Aston tucked away, something like that, they may have children who are growing up and will need transportation of their own soon, and this is exactly the kind of thing I suspect you'd probably be looking at. So what's special about the Rio then? Well, this is Kia's entry into the sort of super mini category. So it's bigger than their Picanto, which is roughly equivalent in size to the Volkswagen Up, and it's smaller than the Ceed, which is more or less the same size as a Golf. It is, in other words, their Polo equivalent. This one has 5 doors and just about enough room in the back for passengers, and it's the GT-Line S, which is the top trim level. With every single Rio, you do get quite a lot as standard. In fact, even with the base 1 trim level, you will get yourself Bluetooth, hill hold assist, air conditioning, and electric windows in the front. You also get very decent storage in the boot with over 300 litres of capacity, and something I quite like, you have a 45 litre fuel tank, which is larger than some cars you'll find in this segment, meaning with an economy average of over 50 to the gallon, it should be able to go a reasonable distance between fill-ups. And as you go up the trim tree, you'll get more and more stuff. So on this top-end GT-Line S, you get LED fog lights at the front with a little cube design that Kia have kind of adopted. You get nice 17-inch alloys, you get Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, USB sockets front and rear, Lecky windows all round, a big screen which is touch with sat nav, all sorts of stuff, and you even get these little twin tailpipes at the back, making it look nice and sporty. And I think it is a really good looking car. I think any 17-year-old should be very happy to drive this around, because I'm quite happy driving it. I think it's a lovely looking thing, and we have to remember that today's 17-year-old is very different to the 17-year-old of yore. And so to try and lure them in, the Rio has an ace up its sleeve. You see, back in my day, all a 17-year-old wanted was a £500 car that still had some MOT left, and £500 they could spend on a rip-speed stereo from Halfords, which sounded absolutely awful, but it was loud, so it would impress your mates. However, buyers now want an awful lot more, and what we're seeing is an increasing number of young buyers purchasing new cars, which means they are, of course, influencing new car design. And what does the Rio have to lure those people in? Well, alongside this 1 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged engine, you're going to find an electric motor. Yep, this is a mild hybrid, one of the smallest mild hybrids you're going to find on sale today, and that makes its £20,000 asking price, I think, just a little bit more reasonable. Now, the performance may not be that impressive, 118 horses, a 0 to 60 dash in just under 10 seconds. In fact, Kia gave me the most accurate 0 to 60 time I've ever seen, 9.84 seconds. And I'm sure if it was a 0 to 62 time, it'd be over 10. But that combined with a top speed of 118 means this won't be anywhere near as slow as your 1-litre engines of old. In fact, although the power figure may not be that great, this car has almost the same amount of torque as my Honda S2000. So it shouldn't be that slow. If you are the sort of person who still sees Kia as a sort of low-end purveyor of just second-class tat, you really do need to try one, because pound for pound, these are every bit as good now as anything I've seen from Germany in the last few years. In fact, you tend to get a lot more for your money with the Koreans. Not just that amazing 7-year warranty, 100,000 miles worth, but just the feel of the thing, the quality of the leather, where it is in this car, the functions you get. Every single thing in this car feels very well engineered. These do not feel like cheap cars anymore. And that's just as well because they aren't cheap cars anymore. 20 grand for a fairly small car is a lot. That will get you into a Polo with roughly similar performance. However, many Kias I've driven before have been just that little bit more exciting behind the wheel than the German equivalents. So does the Rio continue the trend? Well, not quite. It's far from a bad car, this though, and in fact it's Kia's biggest seller globally. Curiously though, here in the UK, it's actually dramatically outsold by both the Ceed and the Sportage. No real surprise there, the Sportage I believe is one of Britain's best-selling cars. There are a few annoyances in here, and these are things I've not really experienced in a Kia previously. One of those being, because this is a new car, your lane keep assist gets turned on by default whenever you start the car. And to turn it off isn't the easiest process. You need to go into a menu in the dashboard and turn it off. And really, there should just be a button for that. Most other manufacturers have realised that this is something a lot of people want turned off. In the countryside here in particular, I find actually lane keep assist can be dangerous on occasion because you'll often have a white line in the middle of the road, but not always to the side. So sometimes if you're trying to go around a pothole or something like that, you will find the car actually sort of pushing you into the hedgerows. Not really an issue with smaller cars like the Rio, but in something big like an Audi Q7, it's a problem. This little engine is quite punchy, I've got to say. It feels pretty potent, and the 48-volt hybrid system here is actually adding. I did have to double check that, but no, it is giving you a little bit extra power. Not much, 20 horses at absolute most, I believe, and it doesn't always seem to be in play all the time. There is a display down here which will tell you when it's either deploying power or recharging, and it seems to recharge a lot, but not deploy it. However, this is still pretty sprightly. It's a very, very potent little thing for what it is. This top-of-the-line model is actually pretty much the one you're least likely to see here on the roads. The biggest sellers have the 1.25-litre naturally aspirated 4-cylinder that makes about 83 horsepower, and the most popular trim level is the 2, which gets you quite a few things because it has the big colour screen as you'll find in here. They've all got aircon, it's got alloy wheels on it. That I think is the car that people would want to go for. But if you are after a car in this class as your daily driver, I would give some serious consideration to the higher trim levels. The difference between a 1.25 litre 2 and this top-of-the-line mild hybrid turbocharged GT-Line S is about 4 grand, so 16 plays just over 20 here. I do think this feels like at least 4 grand's worth more of car. It's a good enough drive, but it lacks that kind of real excitement, particularly in the steering department that you'll find in the Stinger, even the Ceed, and actually the Sportage too. Driving position is pretty good, you feel reasonably high up, which is kind of what you want in a Super Mini. It's fairly quiet and refined, and Kia in their press release even go down to really minute details, like the fact they've added more teeth to the steering rack, so it's a little bit quieter, a little bit easier to use, a little bit nicer day to day. It's that kind of detailed engineering that I really, really like. There is also some clever tech in here because you have clutch by wire. Now, it's not a great feeling pedal because you have lost a little bit the interaction and engagement that you would find. And I'd kind of hoped having clutch by wire would have meant you couldn't stall this car, but you can. I tried to, and I succeeded. So there's that to consider. But it's not horrible to use. It's not like some of the brake-by-wire systems I've used, which are horrible. The buttons, the display, everything over here is all really nice and clear, easy to use. Brakes have a good feel about them. The steering is quick enough, and it's actually got a little bit of feel and weighting to it, just not as much as I would quite like. But then this is a day-to-day Super Mini. It's going to be aimed at the sort of city user, and for that kind of scenario, the steering feel I want would be totally inappropriate. Sadly, there is not a hot Rio, nor is there likely ever to be. In fact, you can't actually even buy a 3-door anymore. I know I might have implied that was an option, but no, it used to be, and now isn't. And that's the same with many manufacturers, because ultimately people just weren't buying 3-doors quite as much as they used to. I have also been really impressed with this car's fuel economy in the time that I've had it. I haven't probably driven it as much as I normally would with these things, but even still, the car on its long trip computer, so that includes a bit of me driving and a bit of the delivery driver, has averaged just over 50 to the gallon, 50.2 to be exact. It's over 270 miles and 6 hours of driving. That's really good. That's exactly the kind of thing you want if you're buying a car like this. I know I've put an exhaust cam on, and I think that's a little bit of wishful thinking on my part, because I'm not sure you're really going to hear much from it. But let's try anyway. Full power! Honestly, very easy to look down on something like this when you get to drive the sort of cars that I do, but actually this is really quite good. Compared to, say, 1-litre Nissan Micra of yore, this is really pretty quick. It's comfortable too, damping's really well sorted. You've got different driving modes, but they don't affect all that much. In fact, let's put it in the sporty mode, just see if it does weighten up the steering. Oh, it does weighten up the steering a little bit, yep. Kind of like that. Throttle response, I think, is slightly altered too. No adaptive dampers or anything like that in here, but that's fine. It downshifts for you. Oh, no, look. That's Kia's intelligent manual shifting thing, whatever they call it. They got some buzzword for it, but in a tiny little hybrid Super Mini, that's pretty cool. And it works quite well, actually. Nice. I like that. I approve. Does it do it in all the modes? No. Yeah, so you need to be in sport mode, then it'll rev match for you. That'll make you feel really cool if you're about 17, you got one of these. Yeah. Incidentally, I'd be very happy if I was 17 and had one of these. Got this little fake carbon fibre looking stuff in here. That's going to win you some points with your mates. AC works really well. Single zone too, so you can have a fight with all your friends about what setting it's on. It's important to learn these negotiation tactics when you're younger, you know. You don't want everybody having their own way, because that's not how life works. They need to learn. The first couple of gear changes are not always the easiest, although I'm probably driving this car in a way that makers didn't necessarily intend. They even actually have a heated steering wheel in this thing. That's pretty cool. Having Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, all that jazz means for day-to-day stuff, it's actually a really decent car. Plenty of room in it too, so you can get your 3 mates in at least. I'd say 4 would be a stretch, but you know, if you're 18, you'd probably do it anyway. And the boots are a good enough size too. For the young and for the old, I'd say this is an ideal car, really. Everyone in the middle, you probably find something a little bit better, more appropriate. Ceed, Sportage, or Sorento if you've got a big family. As an aside, the new Sorento I want to try, because that's another step forward for Kia in terms of their interior design and quality and all that jazz. It's a really, really big car for them, so I'm desperate to get a go in one of those, because they do look quite nice. Anyway, I don't think there's really that much more I can say, or indeed need to say, about the little Kia Rio. If you're looking for a Super Mini-sized car, if you want the most fun and engaging drive, I don't think it's the thing to go for. But as an all-round package, it does work fairly well. A few things I'd like to see Kia to improve, the lack of buttons for lane keep assist and all that jazz, but otherwise, I think this does the job well. It's not a spectacular car, it's not an exceptional car, it's not a car that I've fallen in love with some of the other Kias I have, it's just a very good car. So if you're thinking of getting one, it's definitely worth looking at. See if you can wangle a bit of discount though, because I think 20 grand for this, still maybe it's a bit strong. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you for the next one. Bye bye.